Hello and welcome to Fast Talk, your source for the science of endurance performance. I'm your host, Trevor Connor here, and I'm happy to say with Chris Case returning as one of our co-hosts. At the start of 2024, Jack Burke decided to give up his dream of being a world tour cyclist, despite getting painfully close. COVID, lack of funding, and being a Canadian in Europe all added up to an insurmountable barrier. So he got a job, took the pressure off himself, and decided to ride for fun. His biggest goal for the fall was the Zwift Academy Challenge, but even there he wasn't turning heads. So he went out with a friend and attacked the Stelvio for fun and set the record. Suddenly he had a new mission. He went after Alpe d'Huez next, beating Sepp Kuss's Strava record by 9 seconds. Then he took the Mortirolo, averaging over 400 watts. Now, at the end of a year where he had given up on pro cycling, he's talking with multiple World Tour teams, something he thought impossible only a few months before. So today, we'll talk with Jack about his record attempts, what motivated him, how he paced the climbs, what his training looked like leaning in, and whether the lack of pressure was a key ingredient that he's losing now that everyone is expecting him to go pro. If there was one message that Jack had to share, it's about the importance of enjoyment. Whether he races the Tour in 2025 or chalks this up to one final big moment on the bike before moving on to a new career, we here at Fast Talk are going to root for him. If for anything, the fact that Jack has already proven that grit takes you far and nothing is impossible. So bust out your Strava KOMs and let's make it fast.
Well, Jack, welcome back to the show. This was not expected, but this is a hell of a good reason to have you on the show.
And nothing this year's been planned, and it's turning out great.
So for any of our listeners who might remember this, we had Jack on the show. This was episode 310. I think this was last winter, where we were talking about the struggles of making it pro, that you can be strong enough and still it can be a huge challenge to make it. And you told a lot of your story, but it turns out the story wasn't over. So tell us what happened in the last couple weeks.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so if I try to summarize this whole year, so the last couple of weeks I broke the record up the Stelvio, the Alpe d'Huez, and the Mortirolo, and that's been the thing that got famous. But basically this year I hadn't planned on racing. Like I was really content with my cycling career being done. So I'd essentially been retired for like 18 months and was just working on like normal life stuff and just exercising like a normal human does to give their brain a break. Well, yeah, like I'd work on the computer for like 4 or 5 hours in the morning, and then my brain would be shot, and I'd be like, I'd go ride for like 3 hours or so, and I'd come back and I'd get back to work. And then through my podcast, I heard of a coach named Steve Neal, who I'd never heard of before, who's like this Canadian coach for 30 years. Trevor, I know you know him. I'd never heard of Steve before. I heard about him through Swain Tuft, and then I was like, oh, this would be a cool guy to have on my podcast. I just went into this thing wanting to record a podcast with him, and I was so impressed by him. By the end of this 2-hour podcast, I was so impressed I wanted this guy to work with me. So we spoke for another 2 hours after we finished recording, and by the end of it, he's telling me he wants to start coaching me. And I'm like, for what? Like for biking, mountain biking, or skiing? Because I was planning to race the Ski Mountaineering World Cup this winter. And he's like, no, let's just start training again. Like, that'd be good. Like, let's just see what happens. I'm like, okay, sure. So I started training, like properly training again in May. And then my friend started talking me into doing all these amateur races. And I did all these amateur races and I won all of them, which was awesome. And like I was flying by August.
What country are you living in and where were you racing?
I'm in Austria. So most of the races were here in Austria that I did. And so like some of them are like the biggest amateur races, like the Gran Fondo World Championships, let's call it that, or the unofficial Gran Fondo World Championships. And I won those and I broke the course record at some of them. And then I put the files up on Strava. And then some of my friends who race in the World Tour started reaching out to me being like, dude, these are really good. Like you need to send these to pro teams and stuff. And I was like, okay, like cool. Like that's nice to hear, but I didn't really think anything of it. And then by the end of September, the start of October, I was like obviously still, I don't know if I was still getting better, but I was like so fresh to training. I was like, I wanted to keep going, but the cycling season's done by then. So I came up with the side goal of I'll do the Zwift Academy thing as a side goal or like a intermediate goal to keep me in shape to get ready to start the Ski Mountaineering World Cup season because Zwift Academy ends at the end of November. So I would train for that. That would be the goal to keep me motivated. And I'm basically training for like a 1-hour effort, which is what ski mountaineering is. And then as soon as the Zwift Academy ended, I'd jump on my skis and start the World Cup Skimo season. And if something good came of it, awesome. But like I wasn't expecting that. And then I was doing all these trainer workout things and it was driving me crazy. And it was really killing my motivation because it was like such nice weather and I'm sweating on the balcony while my friends are out having fun. And then there was like one day I was doing these workouts, like just practicing, getting ready for it, and nothing's connecting. Everything needs to be calibrated. My Wi-Fi connection's not strong enough. And now I'm like losing my because I'm just trying to get a workout in. And I'm dealing with Wi-Fi connections and I just want a freaking workout in. And so I finished it. And then I texted my coach and I was just like, tomorrow I'm taking a rest day and then I'm going to drive to the bottom of the Stelvio. And I just want to test myself because the trainer says I suck, but I think I'm going okay right now. And I just want to see how I go outside. And so I went to the Stelvio with one of my buddies and I just went up and I just wanted to see if I could get the record. And like, I didn't think I was going that well in the middle of it. Like I wanted to quit like halfway up. And then I was just like, because my heart rate wasn't going up at all. And I was like, I'm just not on that great of a day. I should probably just turn around. But anyways, I got to the top. It's like 1 degree and raining. My buddy comes up to me and I'm just like, yeah, I think I got the record. And he's stoked. And then like we wanted to leave. And as we're like putting our jackets on to like ride down and leave, his girlfriend called him because she knew we were going there. And she's like, did Jack get it? And I was like, yeah, we think he got it. And then she's like, you have to make a video of it. Like, we're like, a video of what? It's like snow, rain, we're freezing cold. Like, there's nothing here. Like, it's clouds. What are we going to make a video of? So my buddy makes this terrible 5-second video of me. We put it on Instagram, and it has like 460,000 views at this point. Like, it went ridiculous. And I was just like, are you kidding me? And like, for a day, I was the most trending rider on Pro Cycling Stats, like ahead of Tadej Pogacar, which is hilarious. And I'm like, are you serious? Like, out of everything I've put myself through my whole life, this is the thing that gets attention? And then, yeah, so that's the thing that started it, but that wasn't planned. And then I got a bike to borrow from Scott, like the bike company this year. And they were just like, yeah, like, just go do your thing and like tag us on Instagram. And so when they saw this, they were so stoked. They were like, this is amazing. Like, this guy's over delivering big time. He just got to borrow a bike. And then they were like, I was hanging out with some of my friends at their head office because it's really close to where I live. And they're like, Jack, we have a new bike for you for next year. Do you want to see it? And I'm just like, yeah, I want to see it. And then so they showed me the next year's version of this bike. And they're like, what do you think you can do with this? And I was like, oh, there's no snow on Alpe d'Huez yet. Like, I wonder if I could go do that. I thought of the idea. And then I told my buddies about it, just thinking they'd think it's cool because I was just planning to just go drive there and give it a crack before there was snow. Because like when you have good fitness, you want to use it.
Yep, exactly.
So, and then my friends were just like, oh, we're coming with you. And so my buddies made like a cool biking trip out of it. And then this guy that had interviewed me on his podcast, who has a YouTube channel, I told him about it and he was thinking I was talking about doing it next year. And so he was going to like come film it. And I'm just like, no, next week. And he's like, oh, okay. So we all got together in France. I drove there with a bunch of my friends. I went and did Alpe d'Huez. I got the record on that one, but then I couldn't tell anybody about it for like 2.5 weeks because the bike hadn't been released yet. And this was driving me freaking nuts because I was just like, are you kidding me? Like, I got the record of Alpe d'Huez and now I can't tell anyone for 2.5 weeks. And then, so that was on a Monday that I did Alpe d'Huez. We drove home and then on like a Wednesday or a Thursday, I found out I didn't make the first round cuts for Zwift Academy. And I was really bummed about this because I was like, man, are you serious? Like, I did everything for this. I checked all the boxes and like, I don't even make the first round cuts, but I'm strong enough to do this. Like, come on, who beat me for
so
this?
you just set the record on Alpe d'Huez, but you're not strong enough to make the first cut of Zwift Academy.
I was like, man, I really suck on these trainers. Like, this is not good.
That shows you the difference between those two worlds, right? Like outside versus inside. They're different.
Yeah, so I don't know. So I was pissed about this. Like, my ego was a bit bruised from this. So I was like, oh, fine. Like, I'm going to go see if I can go get the record on the Mortirolo because a guy who came on my podcast earlier that year, Asbjørn Hellemoze, he raced in the World Tour for Trek. Then he lost his spot on Trek, came on my podcast and just told about how hard that was. And on the first podcast we did, because we did 2 episodes, on the first one, he was talking about, that was the spring of this year. He was talking about, yeah, I'm going to get back to the World Tour. I'm going to do like gravel racing and do like these power tests and stuff and send that to teams. And that'll get me back to the World Tour. And I'm like, I mean, dude, I'm your biggest cheerleader. Like, if you want to go for this, all for it. But I don't think this is going to work. And then he went and tested himself on the Mortirolo and did a great time on that. And that got him a contract back to the World Tour. So I'm like, I'm going to give this a shot then. And I was so close to not. The thing is with the Mortirolo, it was like one of the best performances I've ever done. And like that was one of the days where you just have like, you feel the best legs ever. Where versus the other 2, I didn't really feel that great for them. But I was so close to not doing it. But it was just like, I just drove 4 hours in my car, drove to the bottom, just me by myself, went and did it, came back, and I was so stoked I did it. But oh, sorry. The other thing, it's like I did the Mortirolo because I couldn't tell anyone about Alpe d'Huez. So I'm like, okay, this will like tie me over until I can tell everybody about that one.
So give us a sense, just for any of our listeners who are wondering. Alpe d'Huez, so you were right around, what was it, 35 minutes?
I think 35:56 was my time, and Sepp's is like 36:05, I think.
Yep. And then Romain Bardet is 36:23. Just the company you see in this top 10 is incredible. But basically 36 minutes. What's your weight? What was your average wattage?
I was between 66 and 67 kilos for all of those. Alpe d'Huez, I think, was 420. Stelvio was, I want to say it was around 400, but the Stelvio, it's like an hour and 8 minutes long, and it finishes at 2,800 meters. So that was actually a really good one. And then the Mortirolo, I think other people seem to say the Stelvio is the better one because of the altitude. I personally felt like the Mortirolo was the best one. The Mortirolo was around 45 minutes at 4:35 or maybe 4:37, something like that. That was a good one.
That is impressive. So I kind of want to dive into this. Let's pick one of them. I think probably the one that you've gotten the most traction on is your Alpe d'Huez record. Tell us a little bit about the actual effort, what it felt like, what you were thinking, how you were pushing yourself. Was it just, I'm going to put my head down and go really hard for 35 minutes? Did you break it up? How did you approach it?
Honestly, out of all the things I did this year, I think Alpe d'Huez was my worst performance because I did a poor job at executing it. No, but like I'll give you a good answer, but it's like, no, I just overpaced it for Alpe d'Huez. I don't know. I didn't feel like I had great legs on the day. And then also I just overpaced it because I thought I was on a way better day than I was. But what's really cool is, so my coach who I started working with this year, Steve Neal, he started talking about this crazy training software called Exert, which is another Canadian software, and I'd never heard of it before. And he was talking about at the beginning and how it's like this AI software that can like guess your zones and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, yeah, like whatever, sure, of course it does. And then it was dead accurate for so many different races that I did this year. And so by the time we're doing these KOMs, I was like, okay, I trust this thing. Like I'll give it a shot. So he used that software to come up with my pacing strategy for the Stelvio. Clearly that worked. Then he came up with the same one for Alpe d'Huez. But at the start of Alpe d'Huez, I got really excited. Probably because also my buddies were there, like just cheering. Because the other ones was just like me, just riding up a hill. Versus like this one, my buddies are like just screaming on the side of the road, like they were driving up and down in a van to try to like take photos and stuff. And then I think I went out way too hot at the start of. I definitely went out way too hot at the start of Alpe d'Huez, and I swear I lost 3 years off my life with this one. Like I was so dead by the end of it. Like I cracked. So on this software, they can see like when you come to your breaking point.
Yes.
And normally if you come to your breaking point once, you're finished, like you can't go. And they said for me, it's like you hit it 3 times. And I'm like, yeah, I felt it. The other thing, it's like I was only standing for like less than 30 seconds of the entire Alpe d'Huez and the Stelvio effort. I was seated the whole time for it. And then the Mortirolo is when I started standing again for it. And I think that has to do with the fact that I spent so much time on the trainer before those ones that I just wasn't used to standing anymore. And then I remember trying to get out of the saddle at the top of Alpe d'Huez, and also because my hands were completely frozen. I was like, I didn't really feel comfortable holding onto the bars when I was standing because I couldn't work my hands properly. That I was like, oh, I can't even hold myself up right now. So I'm just like, like your core strength, everything is gone by this point. So you're just like wiggling all over the bike, like just praying you get to the top. Because I didn't know if I'd get Alpe d'Huez, like, because it was so close, because I only got it by 9 seconds. So I killed myself for this one.
You're going into this though, and you're not really trying to be on a peak. You're just kind of doing it for fun, right? So how much do you think you actually could go faster if everything were optimized?
Well, actually, I do think like for the fitness, the best fitness I had this year, without question, was the Utztaler, which was one of the races I won earlier this year. And that would have been the end of August, start of September. And then I was sort of like going downhill from there and just trying to hold on to as much fitness as I could from there. I think I did the best job at, let's call it like peaking for these efforts with the fitness that I had. And I sound so arrogant saying this, and I don't mean it to be that way. I hope it's encouraging for other people, but it's like, I really feel like I only got to like 80 to 85% of my best this year because I wasn't taking it seriously. The rest of my life, I've been eat, sleep, breathe training. This year, again, I didn't plan on racing at all until like May, June. And then I was just doing it for fun and just really enjoying it. And so I think I was much more efficient with my training this year, but I didn't put in the same level of effort. So that's the thing that kind of motivates me for next year, being like, okay, if I really like go all in on this again, I wonder if I could get any better.
Here's a question for you. Doing it for fun, did that give some advantages? Were you able to go to the climbs and be less stressed and go, it doesn't matter whether I do this or not, so I'm just going to give it my all. If I explode, I explode. Versus if you had the whole media there and contract was on the line and you felt the pressure, would that actually have hurt you a little?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, it sounds terrible, but it's like I hope to get the main point across. Since I was 14 years old, I have never not tried so hard as I did this year because it was really just for fun, but I've never had so much fun racing my bike. So I really think I just trained way more efficiently this year. I've never enjoyed it more. And the other thing, it actually has nothing to do with like media and stuff. So if let's say these were races, because the other races that I did this year, there was like a TV helicopter for one of them. Like it's all over TV and there's all that sort of, let's call it pressure. But I didn't feel any of that pressure because it was for the first time in my life I had some other stuff. It's not like your whole self-worth is down to your last race result. And that's why I really enjoyed it, because I was Jack the athlete for 3 to 5 hours a day. And then I'd stop and I'd go back to being like a normal human. And compared to the rest of my life where it's like you finish training and then all you're doing is thinking about the next session.
You had more balance. And for those who don't know, you're 29 now. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
No, Trevor's the old man. Believe me.
I got that claim in this room.
36, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. At night, and then I wake up, and then I look in the mirror and go, oh, you're not 36. This is what my nephews and nieces who are in their 20s and just don't get aging at all. They ask me what it's like, and I kind of go, in your head, you're still 26 or 30. You just wake up in the morning, you look in the mirror and go, oh, God, that must have been a bad night. So you said that one you overcooked. The other efforts were better. Tell us a little bit about how you pace those.
For the Stelvio, Steve told me before that I could do about 400 for it. And because the software that he used, the pacing plan he came up with, he's like, I think you can do about 400. And if you do that, you should break the record, no problem. So then you don't need to get greedy and do any more for it. So I just went and did that. And again, because there was no pressure for any of these, but there was really no pressure for this one because it was just me testing to like bump my own ego up because I was hating the trainer so much. And then Alpe d'Huez, I knew it was going to be really close. And while your friends there like hyping you up, I went out way too hot for it. And then for the Mortirolo, I kind of learned my lesson on Alpe d'Huez, and I was like, okay, Steve told me I could do about 420 for 45 minutes. And so I stuck to that the whole time. And then like halfway up, it felt easy, or like I had a lot more to give. And I was like, no, come on. Like the pain's going to come. Don't go looking for it. Like it's going to be fine. And then I just finally told myself, okay, with 10 minutes to go, if you still feel amazing, go bananas, go crazy if you want. And then so I just ramped it up a lot more in the last 10 to 15 minutes.
So you weren't trying to do anything complex. You weren't trying to do negative splits or anything like that. This was just you had a target wattage that the software was saying you could sustain this, and that's what you tried to hold.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think there's all these other apps and stuff. Like I think you can get, if you have a Strava premium account, I think there's like an app where it'll show you like how you're doing. And then this Exert software, there's also an app you can get on your Garmin where it will show you exactly how close you are to the limit. But I never used any of this because I've never done that my whole life. Like since I was a junior, it's like power, speed, cadence, heart rate. That's all I've looked at. So I was like, I'm not going to complicate it now. I know I've done this my whole life. I'm just going to stick with that.
And for those who don't know, the Mortirolo is a beast. It's never easy, Jack. It's very steep. It's notorious. It's got the reputation of being one of the hardest climbs in the world because it's relentless.
I've felt terrible every time except the time that I went real fast up it. I felt terrible every other time up it because I've done that climb a lot of times and it's horrible every other time.
Which reminds me, Jack, I need you to do me a favor. Chris is over there every once in a while. I need you to take him up the Motorola, drop him, find a little cliff, climb it.
Should be easy to do.
And take a picture of him as he comes up 10 minutes later. Because this is what Chris does to me every time we do a climb together.
It's horrible because I don't even know. I think the average grade is something like 11%, but it's ramps. Like there's flat parts in it. So there's steps at like 20% the whole way up.
I'm looking at the profile right now. It's 12.2K. There's multiple sides up the Mortirolo, but the famous one, the quote-unquote hard side, is 12K, 10.8%. Call it 11% average with the steepest up to 18%. So it's nasty. It does not relent.
I will say this, interested in how you address this. When you're doing a really steep climb and you hit those points where it drops down to 2-3%, those are the hardest because you can get in kind of into a mode on the steep stuff, but it's really hard to keep the wattage up when it levels out like that.
Yeah, but so I think this comes from like having spent my life racing, is you treat it like a race there where it's like you actually you back off the power a lot more and just get really aero and just try to almost flush your legs for a second. Like don't try to keep the watts on the flat part because it's just so much less efficient. It's like ease off the watts, flush your legs a little bit and just be really aero for a few seconds and just carry. Like that's when you're looking at speed more than power. That's how I did it at least.
Good point. Now, a question I've been wanting to ask you since you brought this up. You essentially, by the software, cracked 3 times in Alpe d'Huez. You had to have been hurting. How did you push yourself through that? How did you get to that level of pain and just go, I got to keep going?
My friends screaming at me. That's the only reason I did it. Because I was just like, man, we drove 8 hours in the car. We made a whole freaking trip out of this. A couple seconds either way. Because the thing is, we didn't know if I got it until like an hour later. So after I finished it, there was like an hour of all of us just being very quiet and wondering like a few seconds either way, this is going to be like a trip we will remember for the rest of our lives or such a waste of time and just want to just depressing, forget about this. And the thing is, like, honestly, I probably went harder there than if I'd done it in a race. Because if I was in a race and let's say I was with like 3 or 4 other guys and I'd gotten that broken for it, I'd probably just quit. Like, okay, they're just going to ride away from me. Like, I just can't stay with these guys. So I probably would have quit a bit earlier. And then, okay, maybe if it was a time trial and there was like all these fans and stuff, I probably would have gone just as hard. But I mean, really, with like your friends just screaming in your ear the whole time, or not the whole time, they would like come back and forth at different points. Yeah, they got everything out of me.
So let's shift gears. I want to talk to you about your training. So you said it's different. You know, you have in the past been 100% about the cycling. I remember you telling us stories about being in university and going out at 9 o'clock at night to do 6-hour rides in the dark, things like that. You're not doing that anymore. So what has changed? And obviously you're getting incredible results here. So what has changed for the better?
Yeah. So, I mean, overall, like my training is just much more efficient now. Like for less effort, I'm getting better results out of it. But if I had to point to a couple things, and this is very true for like North American versus European. So in like the way I grew up with training and the way I raced in North America and how most people train in North America, because we race much less in North America, is you do the typical like 3 weeks on, 1 week off, like build, rest week, all this kind of stuff. When I came to Europe, that completely changed because you race every single weekend. You don't have these big highs and lows. And then so in the past, like for the rest of my life, I did this thing where I would finish these 3 weeks and just be like in a body bag at the end of it. Like you're just dead. And then you can like creep along for like 5 days and then you're flying again. And so you have these big peaks and valleys that way. This year, okay, for the like maybe like I think it would shock people to see like my training for the KOMs that I did because the volume was much less because I was just on the trainer there. But let's say between like June to the end of September, maybe, or yeah, June to like mid-September, it was basically just 18 to 25 hours a week, every single week. Like there was no rest weeks. Every week was basically the same. I never took more than one rest day. I don't ride on my rest days at all. I don't touch my bike. I just work in front of the computer on my rest days. And then it was 3 days on, 1 day off, 20 to 25 hours every single week. Yeah, that was it. And the thing is, it's like the training, because it wasn't as hard as that I'd been in the past. I mean, it was hard that I had to focus and stuff, but I wasn't coming home crushed. Or I was never crushing myself, that I could always just recover after 1 day. And so it was just very steady that way. And you see like the progression is just very consistent going up the whole time.
So now you say 25 hours and you're being more efficient. I know a lot of our listeners are hearing that and going, that's my biggest week ever. So what sort of volume were you doing before? What have you come down from?
Okay, so the biggest week I've ever done is 52 hours on the bike. And that was just like 7.5 hours every single day. That was stupid. Like that, I only did that once because I just wanted to see what would happen. And it was not a good idea. Duh. But so the best fitness I've ever had in my life would be February 2019. And now looking back on it, this is what it makes it so clear to me about like how hard it is for the North Americans and Australians to make it in Europe. Because I just got off the plane, landed in Europe, that like I could walk on water that week as far as like the numbers I was doing. Like it was incredible, the numbers I could do there. And that winter before, so that was February. So the months that I spent in Canada training, that was a lot of like 38 to 45 hours a week and that was just with the bike and cross country skiing. And then there were a lot of gym sessions in there as well that I didn't count towards those hours. Like that was just biking and cross country skiing time, because the fall and the winter is my favorite time of the year because I can ski and bike in the same day. And I started doing that because I was having to train in the middle of the night when I was going to school. And then when I dropped out of school, I was like, oh, I got all this extra time now. Like I can just train even more. And so I would go like biking during the day and then cross country skiing at night. This is so cool because I haven't been able to do that since I got to Europe, because when I got to Europe, there was no way to do that. And then in the winters for the last 4 or 5 years, I would have to go home to Canada and I'd be working these construction jobs to save up enough money to come back to Europe to race. And so I couldn't do it then. But now in these last couple of weeks, I've started to do these double days again where I'm skiing and biking in the same day like I used to do years ago, except in Europe, where I live at least, the cross country skiing is not very good, but the ski mountaineering is amazing. But I have to switch it, which I'm getting used to, where I go ski mountaineering in the morning and then I go biking later in the day. Like that's the only way you can kind of make it work. I don't think it works as well as how I did it in Canada, because when I did it in Canada, I'd get the quality session done on the bike and then I could just go get the hours in skiing after, versus now I'm kind of using like my fresh legs for skiing in the morning. And then it makes it harder to get the quality work on the bike later. But I'm refining this. I'm trying to get back to this, but I love these double days.
So you say more efficient now. So some of that is less volume. What has changed with the work that you're actually doing as well? Has anything changed there, or is it just simply less volume?
No, totally. So in the past, and I think this applies to everybody, I don't think this is just me, but like, let's say, I don't know, 10 years ago, 5 to 10 years ago, a normal ride would be like, let's say a 5 or 6 hour ride. And it's like 2 hours zone 2 and then 3 by 10 minute 40/20s and then 2 to 3 hours ride home. Like there was a couple hours in all of those rides that were pretty unstructured. It was just about getting the hours in. Or there would be a long endurance day, like a 7-hour endurance day where it's the end of the block, you're tired, and it's basically just getting the hours in. And that's what I mean. Like as far as like you do all these hard intervals and then the last day, it's like, just get the hours in. Like basically just go crush yourself. Like you'd look at either hours or meters of climbing, and it wasn't so structured versus now it's like every minute of every workout I do is completely structured to the point where I have to stare at my computer for 5 hours straight because it's like cadences and powers. It was driving me nuts at first. Steve and I, we would not be friends if I had a phone plan to call him halfway through some of these workouts at the beginning of it because he was driving me nuts with this. I used to just like, I'd go for a ride and I'd listen to my pump up music for my intervals, but then I'd like either listen to nothing or a podcast or an audiobook or my country music for like just getting the hours in. Now it's like Eminem and Rage Against the Machine for 5 hours straight. I need pump up music the whole time. I need it to focus. I can't focus on anything else.
Now, is it all intensity or is it just, it's structure, but not necessarily always with your tongue hanging out?
No, that's the thing. Like the training, can I say it's easier? It's like, it's not that hard. Like he definitely trains me a bit easier. Like all of his zones are a little bit easier than what I would push. And that was the thing he was fighting me on for the longest time. Like he'd tell me a certain range to push and I'd be like, dude, like if you ask me to go any easier, I'm going to wear my jeans for this ride. Like, come on. Like I want to, this isn't worth getting changed for at this point. But like it's structured the whole time that I got to pay attention the whole time. But I don't think there's ever anything where I'm going all out, all out. Like, yeah, the only efforts I was doing that really had me at my max was he was getting me to do a lot of torque work. And those where it's basically like, what were they? I think they were like 8 minutes long. It was maybe like 5 by 8 at 40 to 50 RPM. Or so you start at like 60 to 70. And as you get better at them, you lower the cadence. And then, I mean, I talked to some of the other guys, like some of the other pros on my podcast, and they're talking about the power they're pushing. And I'm like, that's all out, right? He's like, no, it's just like threshold. I'm like, dude, if I'm doing threshold at 40 RPM, I am going all out. Like, it feels like my eyes are going to pop out of my head at this point. Like then you stop these efforts. And as soon as you stop, because you're on a steep climb, you almost like fall off the bike because your muscles are just completely destroyed at this point.
So you're doing a lot of low cadence work. Are you doing high cadence work as well?
Yeah, so I do both of these things. So to be fair, I haven't done any low cadence work for a long time. I was doing that, and I think that's one of the things I was missing. So when I said like my best fitness I had was leading up to the Ötztaler, we were doing a lot of it leading up to that. And then after that, we kind of stopped with it because I was just racing. I had a few more races to do. And then we got into this Zwift thing where I had to just focus on being on the trainer. And so we kind of stopped with that. And I really felt like I was missing some of that. Like during these KOMs, the big things I could feel I was missing is one, the volume, because the hours were very low for that. Like the aerobic engine I could feel I was missing, and the strength work from that low cadence work, and also just not being in the gym for like, I don't know, 8-9 months at this point. Those are the two big areas. Like I told my coach at the end of it, I was just like, hey, like these are the two biggest areas I feel like I'm the weakest in right now, that's what's limiting me. And he agreed. But so yeah, I did a lot of low cadence work, a lot of those low cadence efforts. And it wasn't always like max short efforts. Sometimes it would be like a half-hour effort at low cadence. So I'm somebody who naturally has a very low cadence. And this is actually really interesting because this changes like how I move. So when I grew up in Toronto, everything's flat there. And so I do a lot of training on my time trial bike, and there's not like the longest climb. It's like 8 minutes. It's like Brimley.
Brimley, the record is 3.5 minutes.
So sorry, not Brimley. What's the one? The Scarborough Bluffs, the other Morning Glory ride, the one that goes down to the beaches.
Yeah, that is.
One of the beaches.
Isn't that Brimley?
Is that Brimley?
That's Brimley.
That's 3.5 minutes?
3.5 minutes.
Oh, geez, I've gotten... I thought it was like 8 minutes. Okay. All
to
right,
get
there you
anything
go.
8 minutes, you have to go like an hour and a half, 2 hours north of Toronto.
So clearly I was a lot slower then because I thought it was like 8 minutes for me. But anyways.
And that was back when I used to keep up with you.
Yeah. How things have changed, eh?
Yes.
No, but so basically when I was in Toronto and racing as a junior and I would spend a lot of time on my time trial bike, my cadence was really good. Like I could actually hold, like I look at some of the best time trials I ever did, my average cadence was like 110 and stuff like that. When I moved to the West Coast, I got obsessed with the mountains and like climbing a lot more. But because it was freezing cold, I think like my bike and all the bags and stuff I had, it was like 16 kilos or something like that at the point. Like it was so heavy from having all the stuff I needed, like lights, food, clothing, all this kind of stuff. And that got me just riding at a really low cadence because I just wasn't paying attention to it at the time. I was just like, I wasn't looking at cadence so much. And so I just got this bad habit of really low cadence. And then I got away with that throughout all my racing in North America. And it wasn't until I came to Europe when I'd be racing these classics where now you're doing like crosswinds, where it's like a max effort on a flat road at 45, 50K an hour. You have to be spinning a really high gear. And this killed me a lot. And so I was constantly trying to figure this out for a long time. And the other big problem, this is so cool. So I'd always had these really bad problems with muscle cramps in the racing. And I always thought it was the heat because I really struggle with the heat. And I tried everything with like electrolytes and muscle gels and creams and all this kind of stuff, gym strength work, all this stuff to try to fix these issues I'd have with cramping. And it turns out the issue was I would always train at such a low cadence. Like all my rides have like an average RPM of like 65 to 70 for a whole ride, like really low. And then when I started working with Steve, he started getting me to do these high cadence efforts. I brought in a lot of high cadence work. It was really hard for me at the beginning. And then you slowly get more efficient at it, you get better at it. I've never had a cramp in a race ever since. Like that was the thing that fixed it for me.
So the whole science behind cramping, this belief about electrolytes, that's all been thrown out. So what causes cramping is something called altered neuromuscular control. And that's something that you train with low and high cadence work.
Yeah. So I was doing a lot of that. The one thing I will say about like the low and high cadence stuff, is some guys still do this. Like I ask all the pros that come on my podcast, like what are the 3 workouts you do the most? And a couple of them mentioned this. And I remember I was doing this when Chris Baldwin was coaching me and other people have probably done this interval. It's such a classic one where it's like a 6-minute interval. The first 4 minutes is low RPM and the last 2 minutes is high cadence. And you're doing that switch. Marco Pinotti later, I think it was him. He told me it's like, this is nonsense. Like you don't really need to do this instant switch. You can separate it. Like you can focus on high cadence at a certain point and you can focus on low cadence at another point, but you don't need to combine them like that. And so I was like, okay, that makes sense. And I never noticed a difference from it. So I don't put them like right beside each other if people are curious about that.
Yeah.
Sorry to switch gears, but I know that Steve Neal has some kind of unorthodox methods in the best of ways, I would say. He thinks outside the box. What else do you do because of Steve's encouragement in terms of your training? I know he's, for instance, into breath work and breathing and that sort of stuff. Do any of that?
I have not done any of that yet. So that's all coming. Like that's the stuff that I'm going to start playing with next year. I mean, Steve doesn't really do anything crazy. Like there's nothing different. I mean, his training, it's a little bit easier. Like his zones are basically just like, I don't know, 5 to 10 watts or 20 watts lower than what I would normally train at. He loves data. He loves testing. He loves doing all this stuff. But the biggest thing that I get from him is because he's never worked in the World Tour zone. So like all my information for the last, 5-10 years has always come from my friends or like riders and coaches that I've reached out to in the World Tour. And it's all pretty similar stuff. So for example, when on my podcast, when I ask a coach or a rider a question, I have a pretty good idea is like where the answer is going to go with that because it's all sort of the same thing. But when I talk to Steve about the same thing, he gets to the same point, but because he doesn't live in that bubble, he gets there a completely different way. Like he's off in some other different field doing stuff completely different. And he arrives at the same endpoint, but how he gets there is completely different. And that's the thing that impressed me so much about this guy. Because I'm like, when I was doing that, that's what impressed me about that first podcast I did with him. I'm like, okay, he's not nuts. Like he totally knows what he's talking about. All this makes sense, but I've never heard of it explained this way or thinking about it this way. And I was like, that's interesting. Like, okay, this guy's cool. Like I can learn something here.
So when he has you going hard, let's talk about that side of it. I'm sure he's given you difficult interval work. Is it super hard? Is it longer, kind of more thresholdy? What type of intensity are you doing?
Again, aside from those like 5, I think it's 5x8 that we were doing. Those ones were like basically max all the time. Everything else he gave me, it was like the first effort's not that hard. The second effort's not that hard, but they're spaced out throughout the 5-hour ride. So like the first 2, it's like, oh, no problem. But then by like the 3rd, the 4th, and then the 5th, in the 5th hour of it, then you're dead. So it was never these max efforts. It was a lot of zone 2 and let's call it sweet. I mean, he doesn't call it sweet spot, but basically like sweet spot to make it easy for people to understand. A lot of that stuff. And so at the beginning of the ride, it's fine. But when you have to do it and you're doing intervals for 5 hours straight, in the 4th and 5th hour, you're really cooked at that point.
But he's never given you a short workout with, just some threshold efforts or Tabatas, anything like that.
I don't think so. But again, like we haven't really worked together that long. So I think that's probably stuff like we just started working together in May. And when the guy he got at the beginning of May was not a pro cyclist. He was like having to kick me in the ass to do the training at the beginning of it. Which was like, so he really took me a very long way from where we started. It's not that I don't know. So like now if we work together for a full year, maybe we'll be doing a lot more of this VO2 max stuff. I think it's more that he hasn't had time to do that stuff with me. But yeah, for the last how long, it was nothing max. The only sort of max intensity stuff I did was when I started doing the Zwift Academy stuff. And those were not really his workouts at that point. Like he gave me a couple workouts to like sort of practice for this. But mostly I was just doing the Zwift Academy workouts and every single one of those workouts is a max all out effort.
So what I find really interesting about this is what you were describing to me is something that we've talked about before, which is, as you said, you weren't really a pro cyclist when you started working with him. He kind of brought you back. Sounds like he was doing a lot of work to really rebuild that aerobic engine for you, get it back to a good place before really hitting that top intensity that you need for racing. You know, if I was doing that with somebody about 6 weeks before they start getting to the events, I would do some intensity, which it sounds like you kind of naturally did with the Zwift Academy. And that probably gave that last little kick to your fitness that you needed to be able to go and do these sort of hill climb time trials that you did.
Totally. And then so when I was saying before how I felt like I only ever sort of got to like 80 to 85% of my best this year, it was because like the big part that I felt I was missing was that aerobic base. Because one, we didn't have time because we just started in May. And two, like when we started, I was working a lot. Like I would tell him, it's like, okay, I got 3 hours today. I got 5 hours today. I got 2 hours today. I wasn't living like a pro. Like I only had a certain amount of time to train every day. And he was great about that. He was just like, yeah, just tell me whenever you can do it and we'll do whatever. If I were to go back and like do this as a pro, like a full year, and that's the big thing we've talked about over the last couple of weeks. It's like, yeah, the big thing you're missing is just volume. Like you need to just train more. And I'm like, yeah, okay. If I go back to living like a pro, that's what I'm going to do.
Training zones are a range, not a number. We've said that before on Fast Talk podcast because it's true. But if you're training with old, out-of-date training zones, you are not training the right energy systems. Cyclists, triathletes, and runners in Colorado can meet with me, Jared Burke, to get lab-grade testing and pinpoint accuracy on their training zones. Learn more about physiological testing at fasttalklabs.com. Just look for Athlete Services.
So, want to shift gears a little bit here. Let's talk to our listeners. A lot of them love to go hit those Strava climbs. They're always, I don't think we're talking to too many people besides you that are actually looking to set the record on the Stelvio or Alpe d'Huez, but everybody's got their own challenge that they want to go for. So we've talked about how you hit the climbs, how you approach them. We talked about the training. What recommendations would you have for any of our listeners who are doing their own Strava challenge or going for their own hill climb effort? What have you learned from this?
I mean, the coolest thing that I've discovered this year is that Exert training software. Like I was such I did not believe in this thing at all. Like when he was telling me at the beginning, I was like, yeah. Also, I didn't really care about my training. I was like, Steve, I'll just do whatever you tell me. Like, tell me what to do, I'll do it. I don't really need to know the details for it. And then when he started telling me, he's like, yeah, this thing can guess what you can do. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. And then when it's like getting like one after the next right, I was like, okay, like I finally believe it. And so I would say that was like my, let's call it like secret weapon going into those, like the last KOMs I did at the end of the year. Cause I was just like, dude, okay, the climb is 36 minutes. I would just text him. I was like, okay, 36 minutes. What kind of watts can I push for that? And he'd give me a range. Like I think for Alpe d'Huez, he said you can do 415 to 420. And I think I ended it with 419 or 420. And so that's good, like just to have that number in the back of your head. And that's why I think this is such a powerful tool. Like if you're going to go do time trials and stuff, if you just put it in the software and it's like, okay, here's the time I want to do, what kind of watts can I push? And there's your pacing plan. Because here's the other thing. My whole life, the way I paced a time trial for the rest of my life is you basically break it up into quarters, how I did it. Or if there's like a headwind, a tailwind, a climb, all this kind of stuff. Okay, that stuff you would still, if there's a headwind, a tailwind, a climb, a downhill, you have to keep that stuff in mind. But I didn't come up with any other pacing plan other than looking at this number. So I didn't break it like the way I used to do it before. This would be like, okay, for the first 5 minutes, I'm not allowed to break this heart rate. Like I'd make that rule for myself. Like I can't break 173 or something like that. And then for the next 5 to 10 minutes, I can ramp it up and I want to hit this power. And then for like this next quarter, I would do this. And then for the last quarter, it's just all out, whatever. I didn't do that at all this time. I literally just had this goal number in my mind and I just try to stay as close to that from start to finish. Because at the start, it feels really easy. And by the end, there's nothing left.
So what I find really interesting is I had a conversation with Swain Tuft, who I know has helped you out. For anybody who doesn't recognize the name, he's gotten second at the World Time Trial Championships. I mean, he is a beast on a time trial bike. And I had a conversation with him about pacing, and he said the only thing he looks at is cadence. He has this old computer that he puts on his bike that just shows cadence. And he says, I'm just going after a feel, which is similar to what you're saying. He's not trying to be really complex. He tries to get into a mode where he knows he's pushing his best effort and he just tries to hold it. And it's interesting. You end up in a very similar place.
Yeah, but what I would say for that is I was doing just straight up a mountain. It's basically just watts per kilo. There's not so much around speed like at that point. If you're doing a normal time trial, I would look a lot more as far as like, okay, where's the section with a lot of corners? Where's the section with a headwind, tailwind? Like then it does get more complicated. But for what I was doing, it's just really simple. You just push.
Do you feel like the exert number serves as cruise control or a target? So you go out on maybe Mortirolo and you have this number in your head and you're just trying to stick to that number. So that's your target. Or is it cruise control? Or sorry, that would be cruise control. Whereas on Alpe d'Huez, you've gone out too hard. You're probably over that number substantially at the beginning. Your friends are cheering you on. You're excited, all that sort of stuff. So your average watts for the effort starts out high. So you've got this target that you're kind of trying to get back down to, in a sense. Is this making sense at all?
No, it's totally making sense. But what I would say is because the number is so accurate for it, it's both cruise control and a goal. Because for the first half of the effort, or the first half of the whatever, KOM, whatever, it feels like cruise control. And it's like, it's only the last 5 to 10 minutes or whatever when you're, well, I don't know, it depends on how long the effort was. The Stelvio, I think I was dying the whole time. But it's like, it really, you just arrive. Like I got to the finish line of all 3 of those. And the Mortirolo, I think I still had a bit left in the tank, which was actually driving me a bit crazy for that because I was like sprinting for the last bit of it. So I was so proud that I finally broke the stupid software on the last one. Like I was so stoked to tell Steve I finally beat your stupid software on this at the end of it. It's like finally. And the other thing, it is like the perfect goal because it's just attainable. For the Stelvio and for Alpe d'Huez, it was a goal because I was like, okay, I got to get to 420 by the end of this because I know that's like a record if I can do that. And it says I can do it. So like, because if it was, let's say 10 watts higher, I'd probably like mentally give up on it, be like, I can't do that. I can't get my average up another 10 watts for this, but I can do 2 or 3.
It seems like it's quite a psychological boost. That number becomes sticky, like in a sense, and you know something's out there telling you you can actually do this. So your brain is like, okay, I can do this. I'm going to make it happen.
Totally. And so I said this, so I just recorded a podcast with Steve. This podcast that you guys are doing will probably go up before it. The one I did with Steve won't go up for a bit, but I'm so certain that this Exert software is now going to be used in pro racing because you can see a graph of it that shows you how close, like in real time on your Garmin. So you could be in a race and you have the app on your computer and it will show you like exactly how close to your limit you are.
So a quick side point, anybody who's interested, this goes way back, but episode 70, we had Armando on the show. And that whole episode, we were talking about this philosophy that he has of using your limits or your failure points to really identify your physiology. And you're kind of living proof that there's some value to this.
It's crazy. Honestly, I've said, because when I was doing the intro for the podcast I did with Armando, it's like, this is the best training tool I've found since I started keeping training logs on Training Peaks when I was like 13 or 14 years old. Like altitude tents, space boots, all like, okay, if I had to choose between doing an altitude camp, well, like I'm talking about like all the crazy toys. Like I've tried all this stuff over my career. Okay, if I had to choose between Exert or going to do an altitude camp, sure, I'd still pick an altitude camp. But if we're talking about like a specific toy, like a training tool to use, like Exert's the best one I've found. It's incredible. If you know how to use it, like you do need to know how to use it a bit. Like it is a tool. And I mean, I think that's why Steve says he's not going to be out of a job anytime soon because you need someone that knows how to use the tool, but it's such a good tool to use.
So let's shift gears. I do want to ask you very quickly, tell us a little bit about your prep, the few hours before each of these efforts. Was there science to
Sitting
this?
in
Or
a
it sounds
van.
like you were sitting in a van for 8 hours, so might not be the best question to ask you.
Do you want to know what breakfast was?
Yeah, absolutely.
A bowl of Cine Minis and 2 Red Bulls.
There we go.
That was like, because it's just sugar and caffeine. So, okay, yeah, I did apply like all the sort of like racing stuff that I've figured out over the years. These time trials, so it was like low residue diet, just sugar before. I really like drinking Red Bull in the races and training and
Well,
stuff.
you
So I
live in
drink so much
Austria,
Red
so you have to.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
that too. Yeah, for sure. But like, what did I do? So I had a bowl of Cine Minis. For breakfast, like a big bowl.
What is cinnamon? I mean, I get it, but is that like equivalent
Cinnamon
to
Toast Crunch.
Cinnamon toast.
Cinnamon
crunch.
toast.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, exactly. The
And I gotta
European
say,
version is probably a bit
I-
healthier.
I am regretting asking
healthier,
this
yeah,
question.
right.
Yeah. Maybe. The box looks the same.
So for anybody who's interested, we did an episode not too long ago about nutrition. Please check that out after hearing this.
Yeah. So, hey, no, I got this from Felix Groschartner. He said, I think Adam Yates said this to him. It's like, hey, motivation is key. It's like sometimes you got to have some ice cream because motivation is key.
There you go.
Like,
Absolutely.
So yeah, what did I have? So I had breakfast. It was just, a big bowl of Cine Minis. Or maybe it was like Rice Krispies. I don't remember. It was one of the two. I eat both of them so much.
It's a toss-up, right?
Yeah, motivation is key. So that, a cup of coffee, and then, so that would have been, I don't know, 3 or 4 hours before. And then the thing with Alpe d'Huez is like, we had to wait until the middle of the day because it was freezing cold. It was so cold. We're like, okay, warmest part of the day. That's when we're doing it. Alpe d'Huez and the Mortirolo, these are and I didn't wear any leg warmers or arm warmers for the Stelvio, and I was so cold for that one. But for Alpe d'Huez and the Mortirolo, those are the only times in my life I've used leg warmers or arm warmers, because I've always thought these are the dumbest things ever. Like, if I need to wear something on my arms or legs, I should just wear a long base layer or long winter tights. But I'm like, I can't wear winter tights to do this. So I got to like actually try using these things again. But no, we waited to the middle of the day to do it. I had a bowl of Cine Minis for breakfast. Wait like 3 hours or so. I did my warm up. I don't even think I drank any water during it. Maybe I had like some water just to drink then. And then
we might have to cut all this section out.
Well, it's a time trial. It's like 30 minutes. You don't need that much.
No, it's true.
And then right before the start, I chugged 2 Red Bulls and then I went for it and that was it.
I'm actually loving this because I do think sometimes people get too concerned about doing everything perfect in their prep. Which, let me tell you, when you're traveling somewhere to do a time trial or a hill climb and you're trying to find your parking and do registration, everything else, it's never going to go perfectly. And then they go, oh no, I'm not going to perform my best. So I actually like hearing you say, yeah, actually, just
keep it casual.
Keep it casual. Chug a couple Red Bulls, which I'm not personally going to recommend, but it worked for you. And just go do the effort. It doesn't have to be perfect.
Yeah. And well, that's the thing. It's like, that's why I enjoyed it so much this year. Like in the past, I completely empathize with those guys that are so stressed about all the stuff being perfect. That was me my whole life. And it was like this year, like I really didn't care. I was just like, and that's probably why I didn't overtrain, because I was just like, I'm just going to do what Steve says. Like Jack a few years ago would have been like, okay, whatever Steve says, plus an extra hour at the end. And then maybe I'll do a second hour after that. And I just won't upload that. So he thinks I only did 1 extra hour, but in reality, I did 2. Like that's how I lived my whole life. If he gave me a 5-hour ride, I'd do 7, but he'd only see 6. But like this year, I was just like, yeah, whatever's good enough. Like I'll just do that. I just had fun with it. And it was not my goal to try to be a pro again until a few weeks ago when all this KOM stuff started turning up. I was just having fun with it and I enjoyed it so much more. And there's a very big difference. And so I talked about this on a couple other podcasts where you talk about like joy versus relief. And you see so many guys when they win a race, they just won a race. That is so hard to do. To win any bike race is so hard. And you see their face and it's just like relief, like, oh my God, thank God I'm not a loser. Like I sacrificed everything for this. And if you get second or third, you're like, I gave my best and I'm a loser. Like I got second or third, this sucks. Or like maybe you didn't even make the top 10. That's horrible. Versus you see some of the guys, like I've never talked to Tadej Pogačar in my life, but like when he wins a race, it seems like he's just stoked and having fun. And that's how I felt this year. I was just having fun this year. I was so much happier racing. And because racing wasn't everything to me, it was just a fun thing to do. And it makes it more fun to put because you're just like, it actually almost feels good to like taste the blood in your lungs at that point compared to like when you taste the blood in your lungs and you're like, oh my God, I'm about to get dropped. This sucks. Versus just enjoying pushing yourself.
Have you felt that joy from other riders? Like you beat Sepp. Did Sepp reach out to you at all and congratulate you? Anybody at the World Tour level take notice of this? Or are they just like, yeah, so what? It's a Strava KOM.
To be clear, I did not beat Sepp. Sepp did a Tour de France stage.
That's true.
Sepp is a much better cyclist than me, but Sepp is a way better athlete than me. But yeah, okay, this is funny. Like I got so much I got genuine hate mail from this. And I'm like, what the heck?
I'm not surprised. Humans,
It's insane.
Hate mail for what?
I have no idea. Like people like hate the fact that I got a Strava KOM or like making sure I know that this is not the same as doing it in the Giro or the Tour. I'm like, duh. Like I can't register for the Tour de France. Like I'm trying to get there. That's the whole point of Strava. Like I'm just doing my best with what I got here. I mean, 99.9% of it is just nothing but positivity and wonderful and all that stuff. But like you get a couple like just crazy messages for it. But here's the thing. I actually counted it at one point. It's now over 50 riders, coaches, and managers in the World Tour that have sent me messages where it's like, amazing, Jack. This is so crazy. Like, you totally belong in the World Tour. When are one of these teams going to give you a shot? Like, it's amazing. Like, nothing but positivity and encouragement. And Sepp congratulated me for the Alpe d'Huez one. Like, all these other people making sure I know that Sepp is better than me. I'm like, no question. I know that. I'm not comparing myself to him. But Sepp was stoked for me because his message was, dude, amazing you did that. And it's 0 degrees at the top. It's freezing cold.
Yeah.
And so cool you did it and not in a race with all the fans cheering for you and all the adrenaline. And dude, you don't even live like a pro. Like, this is amazing. Like, great job. Like, that's the message I got from Sepp. He's nothing but stoked for it. And because I sent him a message after it because I knew how crazy it went after the Stelvio and the Mortirolo. People were writing stories about me, how like, oh, I crushed Nibali. And I'm like, what? Like, what are you talking about? Like, I look up to that guy. I don't think that at all. So I sent Sepp a message before I posted being like, dude, just so you know, I have nothing but admiration for you guys. Like, I'm not trying to say I'm better than you guys. And he's like, dude, no worries at all. Amazing. Like, great job. Like, so great. You did this. And he was stoked.
Yeah. Well, that says something about Sepp too.
Yeah,
right?
that's
He's
fantastic.
genuinely a good human being.
Yeah, totally.
Chris and I did a time trial against Sepp. He was at the bottom.
I
He
heard
was,
about this.
Didn't want to do it. Said he wasn't on fitness, but he'd give a try anyway. And yeah, we didn't beat him.
No, this was a no.
We
This was
didn't
kind of a
beat him by
November thing.
a lot.
No, I think he had not ridden a bike for several weeks at that point. No, that's
Okay, so just to show how long I've been listening to this show for, I've heard this story before on a previous podcast, and wasn't the story that he accidentally tripped the start timer during his warm-up and then still broke the record up,
I
even
think
though...
so. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Because I've
That
heard
was-
this story
yeah.
before.
yes.
He actually,
I'm a super fan.
He got second, but it was to Tom Danielson, and Tom Danielson set the record at the time the day after testing positive.
There you go. Okay, so yeah.
They're probably both pretty far down the list at this point.
You want to know something crazy about this? So the Alpe d'Huez thing, I lost years off my life for this. I went as hard as I could. I had like aero race suit on, like nice, fast, light bike, brand new bike, like all this stuff good on it. And I was thinking like, oh, I wonder if I could get close to Marco Pantani's time for this. It took everything I had to beat Sepp's time by 9 seconds on that. Marco Pantani's time is like 2.5 minutes faster. And I think he did it on a 9-kilo bike at the end of a Tour de France stage in 1995 when he probably ate a sandwich in the middle of the race. I was like, what? This is ridiculous.
I thought his time was slower than yours.
No, he was like 2.5 minutes faster. And he did it in 1995. And you see the photos of like the bike he's riding. It looks like something from World War II. I'm like, what the hell? I'm like, this is crazy. Like, that's okay. He was flying.
That's insane. So this does bring us to our final question. I'm sorry to go there because we are getting towards the hour mark, and I would love to go another couple hours with this conversation. But when we had you on a year ago, it was really about how do you get noticed? And it does seem that when we talk about something like this, going and setting a record on Strava, something that didn't exist 15 years ago, are there more opportunities now? Are there unique opportunities for cyclists to get noticed that didn't exist in the past?
Depends if I get a World Tour contract.
You'll come back to us, let us know.
Yeah, exactly. Well, this is the hard thing. It's like, if you had asked me about these KOMs and stuff like that, like 3 or 4 weeks ago, I would have been stoked on it. Like, I was just like, yeah, if I get a contract, amazing. But if not, like, I really enjoy the life that I have right now. But now it's gotten to the point where there's so much pressure on me, where everybody's expecting me to go to the World Tour. And I'm like, how? That's ridiculous. Like, a 29-year-old guy, I've tried my whole life to get here. I'd basically been retired for 18 months. I didn't even plan any of this stuff. And then it comes up at the last minute. And now, like, imagine if you just said that and like, oh, you're going to get a World Tour contract from some KOMs. No chance. Like, nobody's going to say that. But now, because there's been so much media behind it, it's like everybody's expecting that of me. And it's the vibe. It's like, if he doesn't get a World Tour contract, it's like, oh, what's wrong with you? And I'm like, what the hell? Like, that's not fair. Like, that's not making it fun for me anymore now. Because I'm like, I was just having fun doing this, but it's like people are going to look at me like there's something wrong with me if I don't get a contract from it. And the other part that I would say about this, like the part where it's starting to mean something to me, it's always meant something to me. Like, don't get me wrong, my dream has always been to race in the World Tour. But the part that gets hard for me, it's like everything else I do besides being Jack the athlete, like the podcast, the books, all this kind of stuff, like is just about trying to help other guys try to make it. Like, I think I do a better job at, helping other guys than doing anything for myself. And I really enjoy that. But the part that's going to be hard for me, it's like, if I don't get a chance out of this, if nothing sort of comes for this, I don't want that to set like a bad taste in people's mouth for like other guys to try. Like, I don't want other guys to be like, what the hell? Like, it's really impossible to make it after the under 23s. Like, look, Jack broke the record up. The Stelvio, Alpe d'Huez, the Mortirolo, he did Zwift Academy. He did all of that. He won all the amateur races he did this year, and he still doesn't get a chance. Like, that would be a really thing for guys to look at that and then not even want to try, because you absolutely should try. But there is a luck factor of it as well. And the big thing that I have now realized, like looking back on all these years, and what makes it so clear to me is I look at the best fitness I've ever had in my life, February 2019. That is when I came from North America to Europe there, because I was living at home and just training like a pro, and I had everything going for me. The last 5 years, it's like I've spent my life, like so much of my energy has gone just to surviving here. Like, you have nothing here. And now you look at this last year, with the least effort, I have some amazing results for it, because I have a coach again. I have enough money that I can live from something that's not biking. And I have like other hobbies which give me a little bit of balance. Like, I have those most basic things. And to be clear, like part of it was me just overtraining in the past, because I was just doing everything by myself. I didn't really have any help. Now I have this help, and it's like I'm flying with like not trying as hard for it. I mean, the hardest part, like I get a bit frustrated with this when I ask people, like the experts, like the managers and directors in the World Tour and guys that know far more than me, far more experience, far more knowledgeable than me. When I ask them, it's like, how do you make it if you miss the under 23 cutoff and now it's becoming more like a junior cutoff? Like if you don't make it by the juniors, you're almost SOL. How do you make it if you miss that cutoff and if you're not from North America? And to just like to make this crystal clear, and I'm not saying I know everything here, but like here's the categories. Show me somebody who has made it to the World Tour from the continental level, because the Pro Conti level, that is a medium step. Like if you can get a good shot at Pro Conti level, amazing. But those opportunities are very hard to find right now. Since 2021, show me a rider who has made it after the under 23 cutoff since 2021, because I think we would all agree 2021 is when sort of like modern cycling sort of came around. Like that's when the shift in cycling sort of came around after the COVID lockdowns. And if you're not from Europe, because to just say it's like, oh, just go to the continental level and go win a bunch of 0.1 and 0.2 races. Like, dude, I tried that for 5 years. You have nothing. Like, how do you expect a guy from Australia to come to Europe and live in Europe on 500 euros a month? Like that does not cover rent and food. Like how are you going to do that? Like for me, I was working these construction jobs during the off season. Like I basically didn't train from October to Christmas because I was just working construction all the time. It's like, that's a big cost on your season that really hurts you. And now you're like cram training, which doesn't work from January until the start of the season. Like these are the real obstacles for guys. It's still so hard for the European kids to make it if they miss the under 23 cutoff. But the big advantage that they have is at least you can live at home. You have a support structure there. You can borrow mom and dad's car. Maybe you're not paying rent. Maybe you're not paying for food, that kind of stuff. So you have a bit more breathing room. But to expect these Canadians, Americans, Australians, British to come to Europe on a continental team to try to make it the old traditional way, I don't think that traditional way works anymore because the sport has gotten so young and because the development teams are so professional. You're basically competing against World Tour teams with nothing. Like you have nothing here. And that's what's so hard for these guys. And that's why I always try to like find an answer or some sort of encouragement for those guys. It's like, hey, you should still try. But I hope like what I've sort of shown this year, it's like, look, I mean, I did really well this year because I just had these basic things figured out. And it's so important to get these things sorted in your life if you want to give yourself the best chance to make it.
What really has caught my attention is, so it was about a year ago that we recorded with you. And on that episode, I just heard this, I have to make it. How do I do this? Just anything. I will chew lead, molten lava, whatever it takes. Give it to me. Now,
desperation. There was desperation.
What I'm hearing from you is much more, I have balance, I'm having fun, and all of a sudden things are working out. You know, things are going really well. I don't know if that's the answer, but to me, this whole episode, and I was going to save this for my take home, but it's just the difference in you and seeing how much success you're now having, allowing yourself to say, this isn't everything. This isn't the end all be all. I want to have some fun while I'm doing this. To me, that's a really important lesson. I hope with all these people now putting pressure on you, you don't lose that.
Well, that's the part that's starting to suck the fun out of it. It's like, I'm just having fun with it, but it's like the pressure from everybody else where I have 5 magazines calling or news sites calling me every day wanting an update on this. I'm like, dude, I don't know. I don't think it's going to happen. Like you guys are all convinced it's going to happen. But to go back to your point there, Trevor, because I want to make sure people get the correct lesson out of this, because I've talked about this before. I do think when you're starting in cycling, for the first part, like I mean, for me, it was probably from the time I was 14 until, let's say, I don't know, 22, 23. It was just eat, sleep, and breathe cycling. No balance, 100%, go, go, go. And I do think that is important. And I do think you can't skip that step because all the success that I've had now, yes, okay, now I have more balance in my life, but I also have 10 years of killing myself to get to that point. And I think it's an example of what got you here won't get you there. Because I got to a point where I couldn't push anymore and I was just gripping the handlebars too tight. And so yes, at the beginning, when you're just trying to make it to get to that world-class level, like once you're competing on the world stage, to get to that point, I do think it has to be all in, no balance, because there are so many killers that are fighting for your spot from all over the world. And there are guys that are training harder than you can imagine and live crazier than you can imagine trying to get there. And if you're not willing to do it, they will. And you do need that to get you to a certain point. But at a point, the stress kills you. You can't sleep at night. Like you have nothing else in your life. And the way I outlined this in a different podcast I did was when you're 14, 15 years old, you start to realize you could be good at this sport. And you realize as you get better at it, it's like, hey, the more stuff I cut out of my life, the better cyclist I'll be. I don't drink, I don't party, I go to bed on time, I don't do these other sports, I just focus on my training. And that works. You get better, better, better. But what happens is when you start doing that when you're 14, 15 years old, You do that for your whole career. You get close to 30 and you have the real world skills of a 14 or a 15-year-old kid, because that's when you checked out of the real world. And it's like a hammer that hits you at some point when cycling's suddenly not going well, because your whole career, as long as you're performing on the bike, everybody says you're successful, you're great. You're the guy getting up at 4 a.m. to go training. Like, what a driven and motivated guy. It's like nothing but applause and everybody's saying you're doing the right thing. Then as soon as you're not doing well on the bike, suddenly you're the 30-year-old guy who has nothing else, who just like, you got nothing. As soon as that bubble pops, now you realize all your self-worth has come from biking. Okay, what is the advice I would give to younger me? Is you just tinker with other things your whole career. Like my whole life, everybody always told me I need to have more balance in my life. I can't be all about cycling, do other things. I would listen to the advice, but I'm like, dude, all I want to be is a pro. There's nothing else I want to do. Like all these other things you're telling me I should try doing, I don't enjoy that stuff. And it just takes away from the bike for me. But I was always tinkering with little things. And for me, it was reading. And I started reading because I read a book about productivity that I thought would help me with cycling. And that led to psychology, and psychology led to business. Through that process, because I started just trying to become a better cyclist, I enjoyed reading. And then I would just read more and more and more. And that led to writing. And it became all this other stuff. But it was me tinkering with little things, trying to find something else I could be good at. Because everybody always asked me, what's your plan B? I'm like, I don't have a plan B. It's this or nothing. And it's like, okay, now it looks great. But I only sort of figured that thing out by the time I was, 28, 27 years old. I started to figure out like what else I could be good at. But I started looking for that when I was like 14, 15 years old, because I felt like the idiot who only knew how to ride his bike. And everybody else knows what they would do if they're not a pro cyclist. And if someone asked me like, what would you be if you're not a pro cyclist? I'd be like, I'd be trying to be a pro cyclist.
What really came to mind for me, I'm actually kind of glad you said this. We did a potluck episode a few episodes ago where we talked about should you live a balanced or an unbalanced life? And for whatever it's worth, I was used as the example of living an unbalanced life, which is probably fair. But when I listened to the episode afterwards, I realized it was a bunch of 50-year-olds who are at a very different stage, giving the advice of saying, well, of course you should live a balanced life. And I thought about, what about all those 20-year-olds that are trying to make a career, whether it's cycling or something else? Are we giving them the best advice? And I love that you just kind of gave the answer I wish we had given on that episode.
And to make it even more concise, the advice I would give, if you want to make it as a pro cyclist, be 100% focused on that. Plan A, make it work. Do whatever it takes to make it work. And don't think about a plan B, because if you think about a plan B, you probably won't make plan A work. But as an athlete, you have a lot of downtime in between that. And the advice I would give is, for me, I set the goal 45 minutes a day. That's what it started as, to learn about something that has nothing to do with bikes. Just start. You don't even have to be interested in it. Like, just start learning about something and you will find something you like, but you have to be learning about something that has nothing to do with your performance. And for me, it started because I felt like such an idiot because I was failing at everything when I came to Europe. I was getting killed in the races. I was trying as hard as I could. I hated living here. I was so depressed. And I was like, okay, if I read a book for 45 minutes a day, at least I achieved something today. Because I just felt like I'd finished my career being stupid if I just spent all this time watching Netflix all the time. So I was like, okay, 45 minutes a day, reading a book. That's what it started for me. So I could write in my journal at the end of the day that that's something I achieved. Then if I failed at everything on the bike that day, at least I did that. And that is what led to everything else. But I do think you should invest the time in learning, because you don't have time to pick up other hobbies or take courses, or, some guys can go to school and stuff. For me, that was always too much. And I really felt like it was taking away from the bike. So for me, it was 45 minutes a day learning. And that meant reading, not watching YouTube and stuff like that. Actually reading a book.
Fantastic advice. I hate to say it, we have to close this one out. We normally finish with take-homes. Do you have anything beyond that? I feel like you just gave a fantastic take-home. So should we say that was yours? Or do you have any other last wisdom you want to share with our listeners and any up-and-coming cyclists who are going through some of what you've gone through?
Can you give me a more specific avatar of like who I'm giving advice to?
Well, so actually here, for your take home, this is the first time I've ever done this. I am going to guide you. You sent us an email for this episode with some of your thoughts. And there was something I absolutely loved, which I was hoping to kind of end out the episode with, which was you said, enjoy it enough to never stop living like an athlete. What did you mean by that?
Okay. So here's the thing. When people just hear it's like, oh, he only started training in May. And look, he's flying by the end of the year. Okay, that's not the whole picture. I was, let's call it, retired for 18 months, but I still lived like an athlete in a lot of ways. So I was training, 8 to 12 hours a week. And it wasn't training, it was exercise for me, because I just needed to give my brain a break. I was not doing it was just like a 3-hour spin in the middle of the day to clear my head. But I kept all the good habits of an athlete. I still did the right things around sleep. Okay, I was not sleeping nearly enough because I was working a lot there, but like I did my best to get good sleep. like a lot of the habits stuck. I didn't fall off the rails and gain 10 kilos. Like, okay, I wasn't in shape because I wasn't training as much, but I didn't, like, I stayed at a good enough level that I could get, once I started training again, I wasn't starting from rock bottom, because I just enjoy living like an athlete. And that is how, and it's a nice thing to look back on, because it's like, well, that's how I'm going to live for the rest of my life. I just enjoy doing that stuff. And the way I wrote it in my book, it's like, you know better. Don't be a jack. Don't do the dumb. You've lived your whole life dedicated to health and being like an athlete. As soon as there isn't a race or a goal on the horizon, you need to learn to love just playing the game, even when no one's keeping score. Like, just keep doing the same stuff, because everything else is better. Like, I function better working at my computer when I'm healthy with everything else that I used to do for my performance on the bike.
Good advice.
I think my take home, I don't know if it even comes from this episode, honestly. It's just, I really enjoy, and I think it's so beneficial for amateurs out there to have a little project to work on, to find that segment that they can make their own, to use it as an objective. I will set a goal. I will give myself X number of months. I will optimize this and optimize that. And if they're not into racing so much, they can still use this as a competitive outlet, use this as an opportunity to refine themselves, use this as an opportunity to lean into that athlete lifestyle. I know that this was almost on a whim for you, Jack, but I think that Strava can be used as a really great motivational tool for people to set a goal. Could be a tiny little hill in their neighborhood that they just want to do X number of minutes faster or something like that. And I love little projects like that. I think that helps people remain motivated, stay athletic, have the right mindset, and improve.
So my take home is almost kind of a suggestion to you, Jack, which is also something I've never done in the take homes. But I love through this episode you were talking about the enjoyment side, because I think that is absolutely critical. And I do think no matter how focused, how dedicated you are, when you lose the enjoyment, you get yourself in trouble. So, my bit of advice, we talked about this a little bit off mic. I spent years living up in Canada trying to go pro, trying to get opportunities, and didn't get them. And then all of a sudden, when I was 40 and had already retired, I started getting my contract offers. And I didn't take any of them, but I just went, you know what? I'm content. I got the offers. At 40, I don't want to go pro. And was just content with that and content to move on with that. So you were talking about the pressure you're now getting. I truly hope you get the offer. I truly hope you go world tour, because I think you are one of the most underrated cyclists out there. But whether you do or not, my advice to you is don't stop enjoying it and be content with what you do, whether anybody sees it or not. That's the most important thing.
Totally. And to be clear, it's like, I'm so proud of what I did this year. I make it sound like, oh, this wasn't that serious. Like, I'm very proud of it. If someone goes and breaks all my records tomorrow on those KOMs, it's like, I don't care. Like, great job to them. But like, for the rest of my life, I can say it's like, at some point I had the record of like the 3 most famous climbs in cycling. That's pretty cool. Like, I will have that for the rest of my life. And I'm very proud of that.
As you should be.
As you should be, yes.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Well, Jack, always a pleasure. Anybody who's listening and been really enjoying this, because Jack's given a lot of great wisdom. He has written 2 books. Jack, where can they find them?
So it's the same book. I just wrote the second edition of it, but How to Become a Pro Cyclist. And the only place to get it is at howtobecomeaprocyclist.com. But I published that book because I just wanted to give a guide to younger me, as far as like, I wanted to put all the advice into one guide. And the starting point was coaching is expensive and having great mentors comes down to luck. And I got very lucky in my career to have access to great mentors. So I just wanted to try to put all the information I could think of in a one giant textbook to give to younger me who might not have the same lucky opportunities for mentors and coaching. But it's like, okay, here, this is everything I know, all in one book. Take that. And then it blew up into more than I ever imagined for. And that's kind of what kicked off everything I do now.
Yeah. When we had you on the last time, you sent me the book. It was 200 pages. I went, I've got time to read about 30 pages of this, and then ended up reading the whole book. It is a great read. I recommend it to everybody.
It's like 800 pages. The second edition, it's like 800 pages, on the PDF thing. But that's the thing. It's like, I can't believe it. One of the other podcasts I went on the other day, he was like, dude, I read your book in like 3 days. And I'm like, I get that so much. I'm like, what's wrong with you guys? How do you read a book that big in 3 days? Like, I don't get it. I'm like, I'm glad. Like, cool. I'm glad you like the stories.
It was a fun read.
I'm glad.
Well, Jack, pleasure. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks, guys.
All right, before we close things up, we have a question for the forum. Tell us about the experience you had going for a hill climb record or a PR. That was another episode of Fast Talk. The thoughts and opinions expressed on Fast Talk are those of the individual. Subscribe to Fast Talk wherever you prefer to find your favorite podcasts. Be sure to leave us a rating and a review. As always, we love your feedback. Tweet us at Fast Talk Labs, join the conversation at forums@fasttalklabs.com, or learn from our experts at fasttalklabs.com. For Jack Burke and Chris Case, I'm Trevor Connor. Thanks for listening.